I have to talk to you about something.
Uh-oh. Not bad. We're live. The video's live.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
That's why I'm going to talk to you after we're done.
Well, let me just ask this: is it bad? Is it a bad thing?
No, it's a good thing. It's a very good thing actually for us. So
Gotcha. All right. Let me see. Try and get the. Try to get the video out here. Mm, I'm expecting a guest from 7. Outside that, we'll go as long as we can go. And then, I'm expecting. Whoops! I should probably turn the volume down. Just want to see if I can get through the sharing before I push play.
okay.
Or how much of it I can get through before I get stopped. Trying to be very careful. See if I can get through in one shot. Ah, got right to the end. Got right to the end. And then I got stopped. Ugh, that stinks. Uh, uh, Come on. Okay, sir. What do you say?
Let's light this candle.
Or did it ooze live on there? Yep, look at that face. Like, that was the plan. Yep, that's what I was waiting to do all day.
All day. Waiting to ooze all
Yeah.
over the camera.
That's what we were doing. I'm sure when it happened, you said to Lynn right away, this is going to look great on camera.
Yep.
Kennedy, 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 Kennedy. Do you want a man for president who's seasoned through and through, but not so doggone seasoned that he won't try something new? A man who's old enough to know
and young enough to do.
Well, it's up to you, it's up to you, it's strictly up to you. But it's Kennedy, 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 Kennedy. Do you want a man with spirit who is not afraid to fight?
A man whose record shows that he will fight for what is right.
A loyal man who'll bring the job a fresh new point of view. Well, it's up to you, it's up to you, it's strictly up to you. Cause it's Kennedy, 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 Kennedy. And do you deny to any man the right he's guaranteed to be elected president, no matter what his creed?
It's promised in the Bill of Rights to which we must be true.
So it's up to you, it's up to you, it's strictly up to you. And it's Kennedy, 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 Kennedy. Do you like a man who answers straight, a man who's always fair? We'll measure him against the others, and when you compare, you'll cast your vote for Kennedy and the change that's overdue. So it's up to you, it's up to you, it's strictly up to you. Yes, it's Kennedy, 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 Kennedy,
Welcome from my humble second bedroom here in the Saucon Valley, part of the Lehigh Valley in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, part of the United States, at least for now, given the moods some people have in this country, looking for any reason to split it apart, and yet running to run it, which is running for office that would run a country that they would just as soon see split apart. Isn't that somehow ironic? Let's talk more about that as the program proceeds. Part of these United States, Western Hemisphere, North American continent on this planet Earth, the only one. We have third rock from the sun in the Terran solar system, part of the Milky Way galaxy. This is the Kennedy Effect live with you for Sunday, the 20th of October, 2024. Tuesday will mark 2 weeks left of this election cycle. And I must say that as we get close to that date, even though this is something that I do for a living, this is something that I do with you 5 nights a week, or at least when I'm healthy enough to do it 5 nights a week, or life doesn't get in the way. I can't wait for this to be over. I think I've grown weary of it, and I think I wish. I know it's going to sound a little flippant. If I had just $1 for every campaign text I have received, George and I would not need to do a GoFundMe for computers, I can tell you. I wipe out probably a dozen a day, or sometimes more, and sometimes at all hours of the day. And that's fine. It's part of modern campaigning. I happen to believe in text messages. They are effective. They do work. They do get a good return rate. You do have to read them. Most people's phones are set up to a default setting that you have to read something of it to know what it is, to decide whether you're even going to delete it. But wow, I think I'm at the end. I think I am damn near at the end of this. I just want this to be done. And I also think part of it, to be honest with you, is a bit of stress, is that I don't know what way it's going to go. The old, we've seen it in sitcoms and movies and TV, a million times. What do you want first, the good news or the bad news? I almost want the bad news first, just to get it the hell out of the way. Quite honestly, I don't think there's going to be a lot of bad news. I've given you my predictions on this program before. I do think Vice President Harris is going to win the presidency. I believe the Republicans will take the Senate, the United States Senate, and I believe that Democrats will take back the House. We will still have divided government. The sad bit is that it will be Republicans in the Senate, and Mrs. Harris will not get. She won't get a single. If they put one judge through in the whole 4-year term, I'd be shocked, because I just don't see it. But I've given you that before. But let me get into that a little bit later. Let's get to the. Donna mentions that I think we're all grown weary of it. I do. I think we are. I think we're really quite weary of it, to be honest. I really do. I think we're very weary of it. And I'm not saying that to take it for granted. I'm not saying we should ignore it. I just think we've hit a saturation point, I guess, is what I'm getting at. But I've also told you on the program a million times before, this country, the United States, or at least what's left of it, we don't need just campaign finance reform. We need campaign reform. This country, the framers and founders never meant for this country to be in a constant state of campaigning. Even by putting 2-year terms on the House of Representatives in the Constitution itself, I don't believe the framers and founders ever intended us to be in this constant state of campaigning. I've told you before, all the networks will do it. I don't know who will be first. Usually it's the losing networks that do it first. If Vice President Harris wins this election, which I believe that she will, I believe it'll be razor thin, but I believe that she will. Fox will be the first ones to say, okay, who's running against her in 4 years? And the 2028 campaign cycle will start on election night. And Republicans like Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio and Josh Hawley, and especially if he can win his seat back with Rick Scott, governors like Tate of Mississippi, Kristi Noem, DeSantis again, because he is a young man. They'll start traveling to Iowa, in December, January 2025, and it's a sickness that seems to have enveloped us. And I think the 24-hour news cycle, which I can argue is even less than that now, has contributed to that. But anyway, I should be saving this for the body of the program. Anyway, it's 6:11 Eastern time. And this is the Kennedy Effect live with you for the 20th of October, 2024. You can watch us live right now on the following places. We are live on the Facebook page of Ghost Claw Productions. We are live on the Facebook page of the TCP Media Group, of Our Revolution Pennsylvania, of Hot101.net, my own personal Facebook. My name's right there on the screen, Jeff Kennedy. And of course, as always, our home group Facebook page for all things that surround this program, That Other Side of Information. We have shared the program to 105 different places before I was so rudely stopped. Actually, I got this close. I think there's only about maybe a half a dozen places that I didn't make it to. I really widowed? That's not right. Let me try that again, George. Thank you. George is looking at me like, what the hell are you talking about? I know when he picks his head up and stares directly in the camera, he's like, what did you just say? I know the face, I know the eyes, I know all of it. He's right. What the hell did I say?
Are we adding words to the dictionary now?
No, I'm using the incorrect words. I'm not even smart enough to add words at this point. I'm just using the wrong ones. We didn't widow the list. We whittled it down is what I meant to say. We orphaned some groups. Anybody? I'll be here all night. Don't forget to try the meatloaf. Tip your servers. Thank you. We need a rim shot. We need a rim shot sounder. Well, you know what? We get the other board. We can plug in a rim shot sounder. That said, we whittled the group list down, so I only got blocked like right at the end. I think I only missed maybe about 4 to 6 groups that I couldn't quite get to yet. But hey, we'll get that next hour. So there are, just Facebook alone, there's well over 100 different places that you can be watching us live right now. You can stay where you are and continue to watch, comment, questions, yell, scream, agree, disagree, anything that you might wish. We welcome it. We welcome as much interactivity as possible. Or you can come to my personal Facebook. You can come to Ghost Claw, or you can come to that other side of information. I'll see your comments quicker. I will try to keep track of the comments at the other 100+ places. We are live right now on our on our YouTube channel. I went through Facebook already. Let's move on. I'm live on our YouTube channel right now. That other side of information. We are live on Twitch. Jeff R, that R in the middle, Kennedy, and we are live on LinkedIn as well. Jeff Kennedy, there as well. The audio of the program blasting out over 2 global internet radio stations. First, of course, the station that gave us our break and gave us our chance, and continues to welcome us and allow us to be part of the family. Hot101.net, 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 hot101.net. Our name is our web address. Plug that into any browser. You will find us. Great thing about the website is you do not need to log in, no sign up, no fingerprints, retina scan, no money, no credit card, none of it, no PayPal, no none of that stuff. You open it up and you are listening, period. If you can connect to the internet with any type of device, a desktop, a laptop, a tablet, a phone, you can Bluetooth from any of those devices to speakers, headsets, earbuds. Do it in the car. Underrated place to listen to hot101.net. Bluetooth it right in the car. You don't need the website, though. You can also use our apps. We have several. You can do the Apple App Store for Apple devices, Google Play Store for Android devices, any other types of device, or if you choose to do so, use the TuneIn, TUNE-IN, TuneIn radio app. With the search bar, type in hot101.net, and you are listening. Same for the Apple app, same for the Android app. You download it, you tap, it opens, you're listening. No login, no fingerprints, no money, no nothing. You're just listening, and hopefully, we happen to think you should be, enjoying it. And of course, you can tell Alexa to play hot101.net. And of course, the new radio station that I'm proud to be partner in, GCPR. The link is in the chat already. GCPR, Ghost Claw Productions, radio.live, GCPR.live. That is our website. You can go there. It opens up, and you're good to go. Find the schedule. You should be able to listen there as well. I think that's still working. George will tell me if I'm wrong. You can find the schedule, read about all the different shows, different hosts, and so on. Find out everything that you need to know about GCPR, and we hope that you will do that as well. One of the beauties about being on several radio stations at the same time, there's a lot of hours in the week, folks. It's not hard to listen to both. There's time for GCPR, there's time for Hot 101, and I believe you should be checking out both. And I hope that you will. We are, I think I covered all of it. I think. No. I am trying to share, and I shouldn't be. I'm trying to do this. I'm thinking of it. Because I forgot to do some things during I am a little too smart sometimes, for my own good, that I think I have more time to share and connect you all than sometimes I actually do, and I get stuck doing it kind of live while I'm supposed to be talking to you. It's not always the best thing. Can't always say that it's the best thing to do. What else was I going to bring up? Oh, schedule. We should always do schedule. We should always let you know what the heck is happening. Coming up live, following us on GCPR, is The Villain's View with Thomas and the Guild. Coming up, following us from 9 p.m. Eastern Time on GCPR. On Hot 101, the music resumes. And either way, you can't lose. Too much politics, you need a break. Little music on 101. Want to keep the conversation going, see what the Villains Guild is talking about. The Villains View comes up from 9 p.m. I know I get this wrong every week, and maybe George knows better than I believe Thomas or T. Nathan comes up from 11, although it's Sunday, so I don't remember always if he does Sunday or not. Conversations with T. Nathan on GCPR from 11 p.m. And then Thomas returns to formally kick off the broadcast week, I guess you'd say, on your drive to work or your walk to work or your bus to work, whatever, however you choose to get there. 8 a.m. Eastern Time tomorrow morning, Thomas returns with the sound of coffee. There's a whole bunch of business for you. Take that. So I hope we're all good. Phone line. Open, but open the old-fashioned way as always, and that is, phone up to the microphone. We still haven't solved all this. I'll talk to you very, very briefly. Actually, George, I think we need to post that again because it keeps getting buried in the timeline of Facebook, or I need to pin it to the top or something. We currently have a GoFundMe campaign underway. I am not always comfortable about discussing it with you because you folks have lives and bills and things to take care of. All I ask is that you find our Facebook post about the GoFundMe. I'll ask George to post it yet again, and we'll try to pin it up to the top so it's easy to find. All I ask is that you check it out and that you read about it and you learn about it. Then, if you wish to contribute to it, God bless you. And I don't say that flippantly. I mean it with all my heart. Then thank you. And if you read it and decide that it's something you can't contribute to or you can't afford to, then God bless you equally. Then okay, I have bills too. I can't contribute the amount of money to candidates and to charitable causes that I wished I could. Every time I see another ASPCA commercial with Sarah McLachlan singing at me, I burst into tears and I want to send them, $50,000. Except I don't have it. So it's what I earn in a year, maybe, if I'm lucky. So I certainly can't donate that kind of money, and I can't usually even afford the $19 a month or whatever it is that they're looking for. But all we ask is that you please check it out. Please read it, check it out, learn why we're doing a GoFundMe, what we're trying to accomplish. If you can be a part of it, then please feel free to be a part of it. And if not, I perfectly understand. I get it. Maybe things will feel a little bit better after Election Day. I don't know. But let me try to earn that donation here for the next foreseeable future. We want to take you at a minimum to 8 o'clock. Depends on how we're feeling and if we have enough to talk about here. Our airtime, of course, is until 9. But we'll see how the conversation's going. If there's enough to discuss, then let's discuss it. We'll keep it going. So let me get to the beginnings of the program and get to some of the news of the day, or news of the recent days, if you will. From the Associated Press, Kareem Shahabib, Wafa Sarafa, and Sami Magdi are the authors of this article from today, Dateline Beirut. Israel says it will target Hezbollah's financial arm and begins striking Beirut. Israel's military announced Sunday it is now taking aim at the Lebanon-based Hezbollah's financial arm and will attack a large number of targets in Beirut and elsewhere. Explosions began in Beirut's southern suburbs about an hour later. They've Evacuation warnings affected southern Beirut, the eastern Bekaa Valley, and parts of southern Lebanon. AP video showed strikes near Lebanon's only airport, but it did continue to operate. Strikes will target Al-Quwat al-Hassan. It's all over Lebanon. A senior Israel intelligence official said Al-Quwat al-Hassan is a Hezbollah unit that's used to pay operatives of the Iran-backed militant group and help buy arms, the official said, speaking on condition of anonymity in line with Army regulations. Registered non-profit, sanctioned by the U.S. and Saudi Arabia. So this financial arm of Hezbollah is under current United States financial sanctions, economic sanctions, as well as Saudi Arabian sanctions. And that's not insignificant. Remember, the original attack on Israel on October 7th, 2023 came on the eve of Israel and Saudi Arabia signing a formal peace agreement. Similar, in fact, I think possibly even more expansive than the peace settlement between Egypt and Israel signed during the Carter administration, 1978, I think it was, 77 or 78. The Saudi Arabians were going to officially recognize Israel, recognize Jerusalem as its capital, peace, full diplomatic relations, establish embassies in both countries, full economic cooperation. It was going to be complete peace, or at least peace on paper, between the Saudis. And remember the three most sacred religious sites in Islam is Mecca, Medina, both of which are in South Saudi Arabia, and Jerusalem, which for the three major Abrahamic religions is the center. This would have been full peace, and one of the justifications. Well, I shouldn't say justifications. That's probably a bad choice of words. One of the excuses, if you will, one of the reasons that the October 7th attacks were carried out was exactly for that timing. Iran does not want to see peace between Saudi Arabia and Israel. In fact, Iran and Saudi Arabia don't get along well. They are from different sides of Islam, one Shia, one Sunni. In fact, I believe it's the Iranians that are the Shia. Because I always get that wrong. I always get it backwards. But I'm pretty darn sure that it's the Iranians that are Shiites and the Saudis, the Sunnis. So this attack took place to prevent that peace treaty from being signed, a formal presentation of such. So the fact that Saudi Arabia recognizes this financial arm of Hezbollah as an organization worthy of economic sanction is not a small thing. It's not a small thing. But the greater point is that war continues. Netanyahu continues to bomb and kill indiscriminately. I believe it was Friday. I did post the article in our Facebook group. I think it's from Friday. The Biden administration has demanded of Israel that more humanitarian aid get into Gaza and that their efforts in Lebanon become more restrictive and more targeted to reduce, if not eliminate, civilian casualties. And that if they do not do such a thing, arms replenishment from the United States to Israel will begin to be restricted. They blow up 100 bombs instead of the U.S. sending them 110, maybe we only send 50. To be honest with you, I think it's about time. In fact, I think it's long beyond time. It is especially with Israel having killed the head of Hezbollah, and Hezbollah being relatively leaderless. They've killed the head of Hamas. Hamas can't seem to construct a defense of itself or of its territory at this point. Military goals of Israel have been achieved. But Netanyahu wants to stay out of jail. He wants the bribes to keep coming in. Or perhaps he just simply hasn't arranged a country to run away to yet, once he's finally deposed. And of course, he won't have parliamentary elections in Israel as long as war is out in the open. Israel has held plenty of elections under the threat of violence and the actual carrying out of that violence, normally rockets from Hezbollah in Lebanon. But a full-scale open war, they won't have another parliamentary election during that time. And Netanyahu will make sure he doesn't. And why would he make sure? Because he doesn't want to go to jail. Before I get to the next article, I did want to read something George sent me earlier in the day. And George almost never sends me things to read. So I am going to try to read them for you. Or try to read it. I don't know what I should have said, right? I should have said it. Read it. I went to LinkedIn very quick because apparently I had all these. So telling me I had all these messages to deal with, and I couldn't see them. I am live there though. That's cool. Anybody say anything? Maybe I will. I'm just feeling that way tonight. I said hi to myself on LinkedIn. I'm hoping it would stimulate comments. Let me get to what George sent me. And there it is. And George had labeled this. I should let you read it. You're the one that sent it. It is a thought for the week. If I can get the get the graphic out of it, I should really post it, which I think I did just now. Let's see if I can send it up later tonight. So what George emailed me is a meme or image or artwork, whatever we can call it, and then an additional thought underneath. And I think this is a good thing to get into. It's always good to have additional content and have additional things to think about other than me reading news articles to you, which I think is actually kind of timely and all that fun stuff. But it's, oh, cool. The LinkedIn comment came up. Supposedly that doesn't work. That's interesting. If you saw that, George. 6:31 p.m. We're halfway through our first hour. This is the Kennedy Effect Live with you for the 20th of October, 2024. Tuesday marks 2 weeks left in this election cycle. And I'm going to talk to you about something important here that I want to get to just after our catch up here. We are live right now on 105 plus different places across the Facebook universe, including the Facebook pages of the TCP Media Group, Hot101.net, Ghost Claw Productions, Our Revolution Pennsylvania, my own Facebook, Jeff Kennedy, and of course our home group Facebook page for all things that surround the program. That other side of information, we continue to ask you to please share the program and to please continue to invite people to follow the pages, like the pages of Ghost Claw, of Hot 101, of Our Revolution Pennsylvania, me personally, and our Facebook group for the program. That other side of information. We are live on our YouTube channel. YouTube, always the best place to go take video from and to catch up on the program if you should miss anything. That other side of information on YouTube, youtube.com/that other side of information. We're live on LinkedIn right now. Jeff Kennedy live on Twitch. Jeff R. Kennedy. Video platforms that you may want to check out. Actually, no, most people don't think of LinkedIn as a video platform, but we seem to do quite well there. Seems to get a lot of interest. Not comments, not a lot of like feedback, but people check the program out on LinkedIn, which is, LinkedIn is not really a video sort of platform, but it's going there, and it seems to be doing okay. We appreciate that too. And if you're part of LinkedIn, you can find me there also. The audio of the program blasting out around the globe on 2 global internet radio stations. Hop101.net, one of the very first global internet radio stations. You can listen on our main website, hot101.net, HOT101.net, hot101.net. You can also listen through the apps, Apple App Store, Google Play Store, and the TuneIn radio app. Go to the search bar, type in hot101.net, you will find us, and you can listen straight away. If you can connect to the internet anywhere below, on, or above Earth, you can listen, period, end of story. Doesn't take any money, fingerprints, you don't have to sign over your house or firstborn. You can listen that easily, and we invite you to do exactly that. We are also, of course, live on GCPR, Ghost Claw Productions Radio.live, GCPR.live is our website. You can listen there, check out the schedule, read about the different hosts, and so on. And an app, we think, coming your way pretty soon. The Villain's View follows us from 9 p.m. T. Nathan from 11. Thomas returns tomorrow morning with the sound of coffee. And of course, the music returns from 9 p.m. here on Hot, or whenever we finish, on hot101.net as well. And believe me, there's time to listen to both. So a lot of hours in a day, a lot of hours in a week that you can give both a few minutes of your time. So this is something that George sent to me earlier in the day, asking me if he thought I should read it on the air. And I decided, why not? Because it seems pretty makes sense, I guess is probably the best way to say it. It makes sense. It seems like common sense. And I assume, George, the person that sent it to you is someone that you know, I think? Or did it just get forwarded on to you? Or?
No, it's my father-in-law, Frank Chichersky.
All right, well, 2 things. Thank you for clearing that up. Second thing, thank you for pronouncing that, because I was not even...
I know.
Not going to try. I was not even going to try. So here's what Frank-in-law sent to us.
Frank-in-law.
Lindsay.
Well, that's good for Halloween.
Yeah, Lynn might get pissed at that one.
Oh, yeah, there we go.
I'm going to say Frank. So there's a meme and then a little added thought underneath it. I'm not going to bore you staring at my phone, but this is what I'm reading from. People often say, with pride, I'm not interested in politics. They might as well say, I'm not interested in my standard of living, my health, my job, my rights, my freedoms, my future, or any future. If we mean to keep any control over our world and lives, we must be interested in politics. That is a quote from Martha Gellhorn. She's a novelist. And then Frank-in-law adds this thought after. I should stop saying that because Lynn's going to hear it. She'll be furious at me. I just thought it made sense because he's Frank and he's your father-in-law. So I thought Frank-in-law sounds pretty good. And Frank adds a thought here at the end. An interest in politics means voting. Election day, or the end of the election cycle, is Tuesday, November 5th. 16 days from now. I would say arguably 15. Sunday's pretty much spent. If you're reading this on October 20th, and 15 days away if you're reading this on the 21st, there should be more people voting in this election than any other in my lifetime. Frank, of course, referring to his lifetime. If not, I will be greatly surprised. What do you think? I mean, he certainly wasn't directing it to me directly, but what do you think, generally speaking? And I'm sure that this will not come as any type of surprise to any of you, but geez, what a shock. I agree 1,000%. We have an obligation to ourselves, to our society, to our nation, to our fellow citizens, to our fellow residents, to nature, to the environment, to the economy, to democracy, to civic engagement, to vote. These are not optional. But not voting is not an option, maybe is the way I should say it. Not voting is not an option. I would ask you, when would you say is the last time that sitting out an election was the thing to do? When did you see a policy position that you believe in, or that you believe needs to be enacted, or one that you support that might be currently enacted, but support for which is being threatened, funding for which is being threatened? When did voting, or I should say really, when did sitting out the vote, when did sitting on the sidelines, when did non-participation in democracy ever benefit you or the programs, the issues that you believe in, or that you support, or that you believe need to be supported or enacted? I have told you the story before that on the day that the Dobbs decision was leaked to the press, it wasn't the formal release of the Dobbs decision, and of course the Dobbs decision is the one that overturned Roe, a decision that Justice Alito had said he was prepared for years, a decision that he had already made in his brain and then worked backward to try to find the legal justifications for it. The only time in the near 250-year existence of this democratic republic that rights were taken away. And don't be confused with some of the exceptionally racist Supreme Court decisions made during the pre- and post-Civil War eras. Those decisions, as openly racist as they were, reinforced the illegal notion that an entire group of people who looked different than the majority did not have rights. It reinforced that. They never had the rights in the first place. The Supreme Court didn't take them away. They wrongly, racistly upheld the idea that black folks simply didn't have rights, that they weren't human. The Dobbs decision is historic in that for 50 years, women had the right to make healthcare decisions about their own bodies and their reproductive organs. And this Supreme Court took that away, exactly as it was designed by the way, when Mitch McConnell stole the seat that was eventually given to Neil Gorsuch that should have been Merrick Garland's. The drunk and man who was $500,000 in debt, Brett Kavanaugh, who had his debt paid off by billionaires before his confirmation hearings began. And by the way, lied in his confirmation hearings that Roe was settled law. Actually, so did Gorsuch. And then, of course, Amy Coney Barrett. We waited an entire year plus for the Senate to confirm Merrick Garland. They never did, but we managed to get Amy Coney Barrett in 4 weeks. And you wonder sometimes why I sit here and tell Democrats to stop playing nice. This Democrat has stopped. And I will continue to do so. I'll tell you what, Democrats could sweep everything. Harris can win the presidency by some miracle given the numbers. Democrats could take the Senate and take the House back. It could win all the row offices here in PA. We could take majorities in the state legislature here in PA. I'm still not going to play nice. The Republican Party no longer exists. It has no interest in governance or government. It has no interest in you. You might think that the Harris campaign slogan of, it's about you, to represent you, to make your life better. You might think they're just slogans. They're also factual. Trump and the people who own him and bankroll him, no interest whatsoever in you. Remember, Elon Musk thinks labor is an unnecessary business expense, and that the people who perform the labor should be happy to perform the labor even if they were not compensated. He thinks people should be lining up to work for him for free just because he's that damn special. Terribly, terribly interesting, the amount of flowers being thrown at Elon Musk by evangelicals. The man who's, I believe he's already been divorced twice or 3 times, has 13 children, 15 children with 11 different women. But the evangelicals look at him as a hero. What it tells you is what these modern white Christian nationalist evangelicals believe is bullshit. That they actually really don't believe in anything other than their own lives. And if all of these things piss you off, if all of these things concern you, if you are legitimately concerned for the survival of small d democracy, that the United States would continue to be a small d, small r democratic republic, if you genuinely worry in your heart that this election could very well be the last, then not voting is not an option. You simply must vote. You must vote. Have a plan. In fact, I will take it one step further after I drink something because I'm completely parched. Tuesday marks the 2-week mark for the end of the election cycle. My best information about mail-in voting systems across the country, New Jersey, Washington, Oregon, Pennsylvania, anywhere where they have mail-in balloting, mail-in voting, is that those ballots must be in the hands of the county election officials by 8 p.m. or the close of the polls. So in Pennsylvania, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Jersey, I think it's also 8 p.m. Or are they 9 p.m.? I remember now. 8 p.m. Pacific time in California, Washington, Oregon, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But whenever your state's polls close, a mail-in ballot, absentee ballot, something other than a vote in person ballot has to be in the hands of the county election officials by that time. Tuesday marks the 2-week mark for the end of the cycle. In fact, Tuesday night at 8 p.m., at least for New Jersey, Pennsylvania, would literally be the last minute that a mail-in ballot could be received by county election officials, according to the law. Here's what I would posit with you now. As a part of having your plan to vote, if you don't have that ballot in the mail, and I mean at a post office and being seen and sorted by Tuesday or by the end of the day Tuesday, I wouldn't mail it. I would take it to a drop box. I would take it straight to your county courthouse. I would not trust the post to deliver it on time to be legally counted. And I don't say that lightly. I know letter carriers. We've had countless guests on the program from the Letter Carriers Union. They're good, hardworking people. It's a good, honest job that supports thousands and thousands of families across the country. The post office, of course, specifically being mentioned in the Constitution. It is a constitutional duty of government to deliver the mail. But Louis DeJoy has so degraded the system that when elections come, the system breaks. And that's how he designed it. That's what he turned it into. Because Republicans don't like mail-in voting. In fact, they don't like voting, period. It's terribly democratic. And after all, what voice do you deserve? You're not a billionaire. And you're not a temporarily inconvenienced billionaire. You're not one now. You're never going to be one. In fact, the overwhelming odds are against you. You'll never be a millionaire. You'll never be, without owning a home, you'll never be worth 6 figures of wealth. Why should you vote? You're not the landed gentry. You're not a knight or a duke or an earl in medieval Europe. You're serfs. They don't think you should even vote. And that's exactly why you have to. When Elon Musk walks into that voting booth, he gets one vote, just like you. But there's a hell of a lot more of us. There's so many more of us. So many more. Please have a plan. If you can get your mail-in ballot in the post on Tuesday, before the post office closes Tuesday, wherever that post office is near you, then I would say you're good. 2 weeks should be plenty of time to get your ballot from where you are to your county election office. But if Wednesday morning comes around and you haven't mailed it yet, please, please, please go to a drop box or go to the county election office in person and deliver that ballot. I actually plan to go to the polls on election day. I want to see what's happening. And I will probably hang around outside with some of my fellow Democrats offering literature to people going in, or at least directing them, yes, you go through that door, you know, you can park here, not park there, that kind of thing. So my plan is to go in person. But you need to have a plan too. your vote did not mean anything, they wouldn't try to take it from you. They wouldn't discourage you from using it. If Republicans genuinely believed in voting, they would be encouraging you to do it. Instead, they're kicking millions of people off the voter rolls. People who have no legal justification for being removed. The Department of Justice, which I think has been terribly, terribly fickle and weak during the Biden administration under Merrick Garland's leadership, has sued the state of Virginia in federal court, Commonwealth of Virginia, in federal court, because they are illegally removing people from the voter rolls. Georgia is doing it. Texas just constantly does it. You know, it's funny. There used to be just simple racism in Texas. We got rid of black people and brown people off the voter rolls. Now it's just anybody who doesn't vote Republican. We don't care what they look like anymore. Florida does it. Kansas. The Republican Party is no longer interested in democracy. They don't support it. They don't believe in it anymore. And the people holding elected office that call themselves Republicans, that are bought and paid for by billionaires, are just employees. They just want their piece of the pie. They want the billionaires to make them rich too, and then they're willing to go away, except that they're willing to sell you out along the way. They're willing to end the American experiment as we know it, as the world has known it, just for them to get wealthy. And you might think, and I can understand why you would think so, you might think that what's terribly simplistic or oversimplistic way in which you've broken this down. Not so much. Not so much. When Trump says, just vote November 5th, it'll be the last time you ever have to vote. Do you think he's kidding? Project 2025 is laden with new restrictions on voting. When Trump talks about putting Democrats in concentration camps, you think he's terribly interested in democracy? When Project 2025 talks about not just cutting taxes on corporations and rich people, but eliminating them and putting the entire tax burden on you and disproportionately poor people, that's not governing. It's not small d democratic. It's not capital D democratic. It's not Jeffersonian. It's not Madisonian. It's not Hamiltonian. It goes against the fundamental feelings of the framers of the country. All for money. All because the billionaires don't think they have enough money. 3 men who have as much wealth as 200 million. Those men don't think it's enough. They don't think it's enough. How sick is that? Let's get to some of the comments quickly as we come up on the beginning on top of another hour. This, I believe, is from Randall. Andrea and I placed our correctly filled out mail-in ballots into the ballot box in front of our police station here in Brookhaven. You got it. Read the directions and make sure you fill it out. Republicans in a lot of states with mail-in have made the directions on how to fill them out purposefully confusing. Sign it here, date it here, glue it in here, put that envelope in this other envelope, and don't want you to vote. And if you think that's super hyper partisan or super hyper oversimplified, too damn bad. Republicans don't want you to vote. Democrats do. Period. Period. I've heard the vice president herself say what we say on this program, not because we say it, by the way. Of course, I want you to vote for me. Speaking, paraphrasing what the Vice President Harris has said on the campaign trail. Of course, I want you to vote for me and support me. But please vote. No matter what, vote. It's your vote. Use it. And she's right. She's right. But it's important what Randall wrote in his comment. Really quick. With more than 2 weeks left, he and his wife still used a Dropbox. By the way, Dropbox is being perfectly secure under camera 24/7. But so please have a plan, and please vote. I have never made it a secret on this program where and for whom I believe you should be voting. But even if you don't agree with me, you wouldn't be the first. But even if you don't agree, I still want you to vote. Because damn it, it's your right. It's your constitutional right. Don't ever let them take it from you. I think this is Donna. I have talked to so many people who say they are not going to vote. I want to scream. All you can continue to do is try to convince them. It's all you can do. Again, I would ask you all the same question that I asked you previously. When did sitting out the vote help? When Republicans had all the control of the federal government in 2016 or 2017 or 2018, and they tried 37 times to get rid of the Affordable Care Act and never succeeded. They didn't fail because you stayed quiet and because you sat on the sidelines and you sat in your easy chair and never talked to anybody and never opened the windows and just bitched at the TV. They failed because you were loud and vocal and peaceful. That's why they failed. Voting is completely necessary, and it's your right. So for God's sake, do it. Period. Do it. Period. Don't talk about it. I think this is Donna. I've been reading articles that are saying Musk is going to pay people $100,000 to vote for Trump. Is this true, and isn't it illegal? Short, yes, it is blatantly illegal. Whether it is true or not would depend on what media source you're getting that from. I will say I haven't seen it. It doesn't mean it's not out there. It doesn't mean it's not being reported. I haven't seen that. I wouldn't doubt it. And God knows he can afford it. When you're worth $270-something billion, then not bad. Remember, think of it this way. The annual state budget for the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania somewhere in the $38 billion range. $38 billion. By the way, $4 billion of which we give to the fossil fuel industry for free, for no reason. He's worth about $270 billion. Let's say, just for the sake of argument, well, no, and the math about works out. He's worth 7 times the annual budget of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Why do we allow such a thing? What's Christian about that, white nationalist evangelicals? What's Christian about that? 7:03 Eastern Time. If you've noticed, there is a bright, shining new face on the screen. Let me remind you of what you're listening to and watching. This is the Kennedy Effect Live with you for the 20th of October, 2024. We are live right now, 105 plus places across the Facebook universe, including the Facebook pages of the TCP Media Group, Hot101.net, Ghost Claw Productions, Our Revolution Pennsylvania, my personal Facebook, Jeff Kennedy, and of course our home group Facebook page for all things surrounding the program, That Other Side of Information. We are also live on our YouTube channel, That Other Side of Information. We are live on Twitch at Jeff R. Kennedy and on LinkedIn at Jeff Kennedy as well. The audio of the program blasting around the globe via hot101.net, hot101.net. Our name is our web address, hot101.net. If you can connect to the internet anywhere below, on, or above Earth, you can listen to us. Desktops, laptops, tablets, phones, Bluetooth it to headsets, speakers, inside the car, earbuds, wherever it is you choose to do so. Apple App Store, Google Play Store for Android, and the TuneIn radio app. And of course, also broadcasting around the globe on GCPR.live, Ghost Claw Productions Radio.live, GCPR.live. Plug that into your favorite search engine. We continue to recommend DuckDuckGo to you. And check us out. Listen at our website. Read the schedule of shows. Read about the hosts. GCPR.live. And a special hello to listeners and viewers outside the United States. Thanks for giving us a few minutes of your time and for trying to learn and listen about what's happening here inside the United States. A presidential election is not just an American event. It's a global event. Let's get to our guest. Randall already recognized her from her. This is the second or third time you're here. Third time's the charm. 3 strikes and you're out. I'm kidding. You're out. It only gets easier. Dr. Anju Singh is back, as you can see by the very attractive sign behind her. She's a candidate for the Pennsylvania State House of Representatives. And we are very privileged to have her rejoin the program yet again. And I believe you have a whopping hour for us, so we will try to get straight into it. Please remind folks, Dr. Singh, who are you and how did you get here?
Good evening. I am Doctor, and I'm going to repeat that, Dr. Anju Singh. And the reason I'm repeating it, because there's been a push-pull going around with someone claiming that I say I'm a doctor when I'm not. And you know what? I hate to boast. I don't like to be elitist. I'm fine with people just calling me Anju, but I'm going to push back on the push-pull. I am a doctor. I have earned 2 doctorate degrees, and it's about time people start learning to recognize people's achievements. You know, Dr. Jill Biden has been dealing with it. A lot of women deal with it, especially women of color. It's just some people seem to have a hard time. You know, we can go to school too. We can get degrees too, and it's okay. Anyway, so I'm Dr. Anju Singh. For those of you who haven't met me before, first of all, I want to thank you, Jeff, and thank you, Randall, for being here and for hosting me again. Appreciate that. For those of you who don't know me, I was born and raised in India. I went to medical school there. That's where I got my first doctorate degree, which is a medical degree. I am licensed in India. The license does not transfer to the United States of America. My arranged marriage is what brought me here. I came on an H-4 visa, so you're not legally allowed to work on that visa. But within a year of being in the US, I found myself a victim of domestic violence, separated, on the verge of being homeless and penniless, with a 2-year-old child. So I don't have any friends or family, not legally allowed to work. My medical degree is not recognized here. But I wasn't allowed to go back with my child. The laws do not allow a parent to leave with the child, because then the other parent is denied a relationship with the child. So again, there are laws for good reasons, but sometimes the laws kind of make a very tangled mess. And I was caught in the middle of that mess. So it was really, really difficult. And I've spent over 20 years of my life just, trying to rebuild my life from scratch, put myself through graduate school, earned my second doctorate degree, my PhD, from Penn State University, got my PhD in molecular medicine. I did complete my master's in health administration also after that, also from Penn State Harrisburg. I am currently an adjunct faculty at Central Pennsylvania Community College, also known as HAC, because it used to be Harrisburg Area Community College. I teach anatomy physiology, also known as biology 121, 122 courses. Majority of our students are students going into the nursing program. Some of them are in the dental hygiene, any program that is related with healthcare. So nutrition, kinesiology, radiology, surgical tech, any of those programs. So I've been teaching at HAC since 2017. I've taught numerous other courses, but since 2019, I'm pretty much teaching anatomy physiology. I'm also a small business owner. I have a little boutique in Hummelstown. I've had it for about 10 years, well, actually technically 11 years now, where it is mainly East Indian apparel and accessories, but lately my alteration business has picked up too. So I do, wedding gowns and bridesmaids dresses and mother of the bride dresses and jeans and jackets and zippers and hooks and all that fun stuff. And in the evening from home, I also am a tutor. So I tutor pretty much K through 12, but majority of my students are middle and high school students. Majority of them are math students, but I have taught 10 different subjects through my tutoring. I am currently running for state representative on the Democratic ticket. I am in District 106. District 106 includes East Hanover, South Hanover townships, Derry Township, Conewago, Londonderry, Middletown, Royalton, and Lower Satara Township precincts 1, 2, and 4. Correct me if you think I'm wrong, but I believe these are the townships in District 106. I'm running against an incumbent of almost 8 years now. His name is Tom Mahaffey. He is considered, and I quote, a good guy, because on some occasions he has, worked across the aisle with Democrats and voted on some critical issues and, helped move things along. However, if you closely examine his voting record, you will see on important issues, he still really toes the party line. So he is in the camp that supports an absolute abortion ban, no exceptions. That's a huge deal for folks like myself. I understand as a physician the importance of having access to safe and legal abortion. Anytime historically where access to safe and legal abortions has been banned, and we are seeing it right now in some states in the US, it has done nothing but cause the death of young, healthy women and prevented them from having children in the future. So if you want to increase birth rate, incentivize women to have children. Don't punish them for choosing when they want to have children.
Of all first world, so-called first world nations, folks, the so-called first world, the United States, Great Britain, France, the and so many more. The Western, which actually includes, believe it or not, Brazil, and some countries that you wouldn't normally think of. There's about 36, I think, OECD nations, or 34, I think. It's somewhere in there.
33 the last time I checked.
So the OECD, and I can't remember to tell you what that means, by the way.
Overseas Economical and Commercial Development, I think.
When it's the so-called first world nations. We're very xenophobic in this country. We're very competitive. We're very nationalistic. We're number one. We're number one at everything, even the things we're not number one at. But we are number one in a lot of things in that group of OECD nations, including wealth inequality, highest wealth inequality of those so-called first world nations. We're number one in infant mortality. We are number one in maternal mortality. We are even more number one. We're way ahead. We are super duper number one in maternal mortality for women of color. We are number one in child poverty. We are number one in child hunger.
Cost of healthcare.
We're number one. We're number one.
By orders of magnitude.
And these, some if not all of these categories have been exacerbated by the overturn of Roe. And I simply wanted to illustrate that a little bit, what Dr. Singh was talking about. These things have been exacerbated.
Yes. The states that have banned abortion, currently in those states, we are seeing young, healthy women dying. We are seeing physicians leaving the state because physicians don't want to lose their license, do not want to be sent to prison, and they believe they cannot practice their profession the way they've been trained and the way they've taken the Hippocratic Oath to provide services to their patients.
And we're seeing increases in female sterilization. Women who are suffering from medically troubling or troubled, I'm probably not using the right terminology, pregnancies, not smooth pregnancies, if I could take it from the other angle, pregnancies that are not going according to plan and they're becoming infertile because of the damage done, because they cannot receive the health care that they deserve, the health care that is their basic human right. Partially for what Dr. Singh has said, these doctors don't want to go to jail, but they're also, you have the external forces too of the white Christian freak fundamentalists.
Correct. And what's happening with these physicians leaving those states is now there are less physicians available to take care of the normal healthy pregnancy. So now we've got an OBGYN desert, if you will, where even the normal healthy pregnancies, now you're having shortage of doctors, which was always a shortage to begin with. Plus the enrollment, medical graduates. I believe I was at a Hershey Indivisible meeting recently where we had physicians and healthcare providers present, and they shared with us some really impressive data, the effect of Roe versus Wade has had on these states. The enrollment of physicians into the OBGYN residency program has decreased significantly. I believe the number they shared was about 22%. It has decreased by 22%. That is a significant decrease.
So I think it was the first time that you came to visit us in the program. You were running for a very local county office.
Prothonotary, yes. That's a very sort of a clerical position in the Common Court of Pleas. And
you detailed a pretty extensive level of harassment, racism, flat out lies that were told about you, about your life, about your kids, about your education, your degrees, and geez, by the way, 2 doctorates, you're teaching, you have a shop, and you're tutoring. Do something with yourself, could you please? I mean, geez, stop sitting home and doing nothing. For God's sake, do something. But that said, for God's sake, I sit here with George 4 nights a week now, well, 5 nights a week, today through Thursday. And before we sign on, George will just look at me and go, what are we doing this for? You look like you're going to drop. And I generally, probably 90+% of the time, feel like I'm ready to drop. I don't know how you even do what you do. But that said, I kid, do something with yourself. You're only working 26 of the 24 hours in a day. You should do something. But that said, you detailed a pretty shocking level of harassment, of racism, of questioning of your education, of your background. Why do this again? And especially in what is a larger, geographically, I should say, a larger office. Why put yourself through it again?
First of all, county level is a bigger area. So geographically, county is much bigger. District is smaller. So just wanted to clarify that. Dauphin County includes more districts. So technically, geographically, it's a smaller area, the position that I'm running for. But I think the position is even more important in some ways. Again, I don't like to put things in a hierarchy necessarily. Each one has their critical role they play. But why do it again? Because If I don't, then the bullies have won. Right? Bullies bully for a reason. They want to bully you off the playground, so to speak.
Mhm.
So every time you get bullied and you leave, and I've done that numerous times, numerous women do that. It was about 20 some years ago, I attended a conference of women in engineering. And at the conference, they presented back then that even when the graduation rate of women in engineering fields is about 50-50, follow them through in the workforce, 10 years later, there's only 10% of them left. 90% of women who enter the workforce are not in the workforce anymore 10 years later. Now, that particular study, I don't think looked into why those women are not there. I'm sure there was some of them who chose to leave the field to be, to be moms or parents or, take care of their parents or whatever personal reasons there were. But I am not going to buy, without hard data, that all 90% of them left the field to take care of family and children. When you get into a field, it's because that's what you want to pursue as a career. And you don't drop out easily unless there are really pressing reasons. And I would not be surprised that if we look into those data, a lot of them will be because of the racism and sexism and harassment and the inequality in pay, inequality in job promotions are all factors that bully women out of professional fields. So that's one reason. I mean, for those of you who've been following my campaign, probably are aware that when I thought about running, well, first of all, the whole reason why I ran for pathonatory, I ran for school director, and now I'm running for state rep. My first and foremost reason for running is because our ballot is empty half the time in this part of the country. And that is not, in my belief, I don't think that's how democracy functions. That is definitely not a way to keep democracy healthy. Like in a free market, we all believe monopoly is not good. Right?
So why would we believe it in a political?
Exactly. We all believe in healthy competition, right? We don't want monopoly in any field. So why monopoly in politics? So to cherry pick candidates and then to have them run unopposed is not healthy politics. So that was my first reason. Second reason was back then, before the primary election, even though my opponent is considered to be, and again, I quote, a good guy, he had been thrown out of his office for being the candidate who occasionally works across the aisle. So my thinking was, what if the Republicans decide to have an even more right-wing person contest against him in the primaries? And if he has a weak standing within his own party, what if his contestant wins? What are we Democrats going to do? We're going to lose our good guy friend, and now we're going to be stuck with a more right-wing person, right? So we need a backup plan. And I'm like, fine, I'm willing to be that backup plan, right? And then, but my petitions got challenged. I came 3 good signatures short because I had some married women sign with their new married name while they were still registered with their maiden name. Some folks, their name is William, but they would sign off as Bill. Or folks who had just moved into the district was still registered in their old. So because of technical issues and certain things, I came 3 good signatures short, so I had to withdraw my petition. So I was not on the ballot for the primary elections. And then too, a lot of people said, you know what? Write-in ballots, write-in campaigns are hard. If your name's not on the ballot, people are not going to take the time to research you. Write-in campaigns, you really need a lot more money, a lot more time, a lot more energy to be invested into it to even have a chance. And I knew as a single mom working 3 jobs, I work 90 hours a week, not including being a mom, not including campaign. So I knew it was a tall order for me. But as I've shared on other platforms, my physician brain turns on. And my physician brain said, what if you have a severe trauma case come into the ER? What if you have a patient with advanced cancer come into your clinic? You know what the data is. You know what the evidence is. You know what the prognosis is. You know they may not have a very good chance of surviving. But what do? Not even try? You tell them, sorry, I don't think we can keep you alive. Go home. We don't do that. We let them know. We give them the information. Hey, this is what the data is. This is what the numbers are. This is what your prognosis is. And then you let the patient make an informed choice. Do we still go ahead and make an attempt to treat you? And 99% patients usually want to have that fighting chance. right? And so that's when that's when I decided, you know what? Even if the chances are not good, I'm still going to give it a shot. And I let as many people as I could know that, hey, if you still want a candidate on your ballot, I am still willing within my limited resources to do this. And lo and behold, and that's what I keep saying, it is all about we the people. The first three words of our Constitution were put there by the founding fathers for a reason, because they could see that sometimes elected officials will take their positions and power for granted. They will work amongst themselves to protect each other's positions and power and forget why they were elected in the first place, to serve the people. And times like that, we the people need to take that power back. We the people elect these people. And when they're not serving us anymore, we need to replace them. And so we the people, 441 people, wrote my name on the ballot, got me back on the ballot. And since I have been on the ballot, we've had push polls slandering me, telling lies about me, saying I'm not a doctor, saying I have a criminal history, saying I call all Republicans racist, just all kinds of fun stuff. And people who know me know none of that is true. So it was obviously just meant to spread misinformation. And the cool thing about it, I shared that link to that push poll on my page and told my friends, come on, go answer the push poll. Right? Way to skew the data of the push poll. Within 24 hours, that push poll was shut down. Right? But that doesn't stop there. So the more they harass you, the more they intimidate you. For me, I have used that as fuel to further motivate me and convince me that we need better leadership than this. A person who could not get facts about me is going to get facts about TMI, a nuclear power plant, and make decisions. A person who couldn't get facts about me, I've lived here for 20 years. My personal story is not a closed book, right? You can get any facts about me, and I don't claim to be a saint. I'm just an ordinary human being fumbling and bumbling through life, right? So if you couldn't get facts about me, I'm going to trust you with my children and the education. You're going to have the decisions to make decisions on their education. So the more they do these tricks, the more I am actually convinced we need better leadership. Yet, since I got back on the ballot, in the last few months, my opponent has voted on numerous bills in ways he probably would not have voted on, slightly different from his usual voting pattern. His rating with many of the environmental agencies ranged anywhere between 8% and 22%. But he has worked with some of the environmental agencies over the last few months, and with one of them, he increased his rating by 500% and got it up to 67%, which, by the way, is still an F grade. So even after improving it by 500%, he's still at 67%. And this is something he has done within the last few months, while he had last 8 years to do this. So he chose not to do that, or he refused to do that over the last 8 years, but now suddenly he's woken up to do it. And that is the reason why we need to have candidates on the ballot. Doesn't matter what their chances are. The fact that you have competition, that is the health. That is literally a demonstration of why competition is healthy.
Mold generally doesn't grow in the light. It's remarkable what accountability does, doesn't it? Because this is a form, your running alone is a form of accountability.
That's exactly what I'm saying. Already a lot of work has been done, work I did not expect or anticipate. So I'm very happy and very proud of the work that has already been done. Now imagine how much more work can be done if we actually have a person who works always focused on we the people. My opponent is an absolute abortion ban supporter. He believes there should be cremation and funeral services for products of conception. Do you want me to tell you what the products of conception look like when you have a 6 to 8 week missed abortion? It's going to be a coffin full of stained sanitary pads and napkins and tampons. Do you want to do a funeral for that? Do you know how much that costs? And do you know why the person chose or had a missed abortion? Remember, a missed abortion, nobody planned it. Nobody did anything to make it happen. It's something that happens automatically. And yet, like, I literally know someone very close to me who's experiencing this right now. They got pregnant. It was their first pregnancy. They were extremely excited, very happy. They went for their, I think, 8-week checkup, and there was no heartbeat. There was no heartbeat. And the only way to proceed, now that is medically, the correct medical term for that is missed abortion. The word abortion is attached to that. And the only way to take care of that patient is to give them the medication required to expel the products that would otherwise, the dead products become toxic inside the body and threaten the life of the mother. So the only way to proceed is to expel those products. And if they're not expelled fully and completely by medication, you have to go in and do a D&E procedure. All of which the medication and the D&E procedure would fall in that gray zone because it is attached with the word abortion. And that is what is killing women in states where abortion has been banned, because any doctor who does that procedure is in that gray zone. It's technically not an abortion the way they think about abortion, because no murder took place. Nobody intentionally killed that fetus. Even if you can call it, technically that is not a fetus. At 8 months, it's not a fetus. At 8 weeks, it's not a fetus yet. Right? Yes, many people call it a miscarriage, but the correct medical term for that is a missed abortion. So there's a slight, difference in how you name it. Like ICD coding would be slightly different. And at this point, I want to highlight that the 6-week heartbeat thing, the timing of pregnancy is really, really important. Gestational age is counted from your first day of the last known period. A normal, healthy woman whose cycle comes clockwise, which does not happen to a lot of women. Many women don't have a clockwise periodic cycle, right? But let's presume there's some woman out there who has a perfectly periodic cycle every 28 days. She ovulates, again, like clockwork, perfectly on 14 days after the first day of the last period, right? And then conceives at some point after that. We have no way of knowing exactly when that conception or the fertilization of the ova took place. So the only hard evidence we have for age is the first day of the last period. So by the time she misses her period, which is 2 weeks later, she's 6 weeks out from the first day of her last period. So most women, by the time they find out they are pregnant, they're already past that 6-week window.
Which is exactly why it was chosen.
Exactly. And that is gestational age.
To trap and condemn these women into carrying to term.
Exactly. And the so-called heartbeat, at that age, that little mass of cells, the so-called heartbeat we're looking at is just the cells that have been designated that these are the cells that are going to become the heart cells. And those cells have a unique feature of autorhythmicity. They're the only cells that can contract on their own without a nerve impulse. At that age, there is no 4-chambered heart. There is no blood being pumped. There is no functioning heart. It's just a mass of cells that are automatically contracting in a rhythmic manner. The 4-chambered heart does not develop much later, somewhere between 16 and 20 weeks. And therefore, the anatomical assessment of the fetus is done between 16 and 20 weeks. That's when you look for congenital anomalies, see if the heart is functioning normally, if there are any defects in the heart and the valves and the walls, and you look for other defects. But those defects are usually not, you can't assess them before 16 weeks because those parts of the body are not fully developed yet. So it's not a heartbeat. They call it the heartbeat law. It's not a heart, and it ain't beating. It's just a mass of cells. And I don't think people talk about that enough.
Well, it's scientific, and you have to do a little research, and you have to read and do a little learning. It doesn't fit on a bumper sticker. So there's always that. It's not "Make America Great Again," does it? I mean, describing a mass of cells that will eventually become a heart, it takes a little more than a slogan and a bumper sticker and a hat.
The frustrating thing is the people who want birth rate to increase are going about it backwards. By condemning women and forcing women, all they're doing is actually killing women. How are you going to increase birth rate? By killing women. If you want women, I believe most women, not all, but most women are naturally designed and desire to have babies and, have a family. But many choose not to for numerous reasons, some of them being because it threatens their job. We live in a country, I believe we're the only one out of 2 countries in the entire world where we don't have a law where women get paid maternity leave. How about we change that? Many women, especially depending on the jobs they do, they don't have a job to go back to if they take time off from work. And plus, taking care of children has become so expensive. Childcare is so expensive. Access to healthcare is not easy. We're the only country among the OECD countries. We were the only country where 100% of the population does not have healthcare. All other OECD countries, 100% of the population has access to healthcare. We can, split hairs over the quality of healthcare and all that stuff. And that was my dissertation for my master's, was critical comparative analysis of the healthcare system in the United States compared to the other 33 OECD countries. And so I can tell you with confidence, although it's a little outdated now, my research was back in 2014, so I'll have to look at the latest numbers, but we were the only country not having healthcare for all people. We don't have maternity leave. We have health disparities, as you pointed out, especially in women of color. We have the highest maternal mortality rate, highest infant mortality rate. So where's the incentive for women to have children? Even the ones who want to have children, where's the incentive? If you want the birth rate to increase, incentivize women to have children. And incentivize women to be healthy and children to be healthy. And then look, the birth rate is going to go up.
What do you think the actual real, when you take this big, huge tree, all the different branches and endpoints and discussion around the abortion issue, which I happen to believe is really not so much about abortion as it is about the resubjugation of women and trying to return you all into June Cleaver and to get the hell back in the kitchen and wear an apron all day and make sure that dinner's on the table when Ward comes home, or that he has time to have a scotch on the rocks, smoke a cigarette, and then have dinner. What's the real point of all this, do you think? Because I will have, women say, well, it's about power, isn't it? Well, what power? What is this about? What do you think this is actually really about? That women in America, that a very small minority of middle-aged, not always wealthy, by the way, white Christian nationalists have decided how 54% of the American population should live, that how they think your body should operate is somehow more overrides your own thoughts, feelings, and decisions about how your body should operate. What is this really about? Because sometimes I think I get it, and then other times I just don't get it.
So my answer is coming from my personal experience, so perhaps it's a little biased, and I'm sure it's quite different for different people, but I can tell you as clear as day, as if it happened yesterday. I'm a survivor of domestic violence. Before the situation got to be physically violent, it was more emotional and psychological abuse. And one of those factors was when a friend of ours who was visiting us from out of the country pointed out to my, at that time, husband, that during the period of time they visited us, they saw me working nonstop, either cooking or cleaning or taking care of my, at that time, 2-year-old son, and just nonstop on my feet till late at night, while my, at that time, husband literally just sat on the couch and, made conversations and whatever, with practically no support or help or participated in any of it. So my friend pointed that out to him and said, we've been here for, 2 or 3 days, and I've seen Anju working nonstop, and I haven't seen you lift a finger. And she doesn't seem very happy with what she's doing. And this is, I forget the exact word, but they pointed out that this is not a healthy relationship. Guess what his words were to my friend? We've been married 8 years. She hasn't gone nowhere. She ain't going nowhere. She's got a kid to take care of. Those were his words. That.
And to be clear, again, just to be blunt and to be very, very clear about it, this was an arranged.
This was an arranged marriage. This was somebody.
There was no courtship. You didn't. If you'll forgive what might sound a little silly, there was no longing, eye-catching, side-eye, little grin. Oh, the guy's looking at me. He thinks I'm cute. Oh, he's handsome too. There's none of that stuff happening. It was just, this is what parents had decided from early on.
Right. And just to make sure I help you understand that a little bit, yes, there was no, I didn't know this person. I would not be able to identify him in a police lineup of 10 other people of Indian origin. He was a complete stranger in my life, right? But with that said, I do want to give some perspective of why arranged marriages do happen and why they do work for a lot of people. It's more like arranged marriage is more like a marriage of two families, not of two individuals. Remember, historically in India, we were the farming community. Joint family is a common thing. Not anymore, but it used to be more common. Some families still have it, but not a lot. So family compatibility and the alignment of family values was more important than individual compatibility. Because usually most of the men left during the day and they worked outside the house, right? They went and worked on the field or farm or whatever. And it's the women of the family traditionally who stayed at home, took care of the kids, did the cooking and cleaning, yada, yada, yada. So at that time, traditionally, it was considered important that the family values be aligned and you get along with each other and you follow the same religion and culture and food and lifestyle, yada, yada, right? And that's why arranged marriages used to work, because it was the entire family support system. And as individuals and husband and wife, you weren't as dependent on each other. So your individual compatibility was not such an important factor. Now you come forward in the industrialized era where nuclear families are now moving apart from that joint family cell, if you will. And so now when you're out by yourself, your individual compatibility now becomes a very critical factor. If you can't work together as a team, the marriage ain't going to work, right? Back in a joint family system, you have your parents and, in-laws and sisters and sister-in-laws and brothers. You've got the whole village behind you supporting you. With that said, I'll tell you, same guy who I was married to would probably not have treated me the way he did if we were back home in India. His own dad would have probably whooped him for speaking to me that way, right? So that's the thing. When people are abusive and they have this power, what should I say? They get a high out of showing that they are more powerful and in control. They can't do that when they're not being held accountable. Mm-hmm. So it has worked in many cases, but it doesn't always work.
How have you found this campaign compared to your other two? Do you find it getting easier? Is it getting harder? Is the level of, you mentioned the push-pull earlier, and my understanding of a push-pull is where the answer is kind of buried in the question. Dr. Andrew Singh wasn't born here, right? Kind of like the old, I did not go to law school, by the way, folks, nor I don't know of a decent law school in this country that would have me, but the old, so Mr. Smith, when exactly did you stop beating your wife? Kind of question. But what have you found in this campaign cycle so far compared to the other two, especially? Is it getting easier? Is it getting harder? Is there a higher level of vitriol and racism, or has that backed off? What are you finding this cycle?
I did not encounter any resistance from any folks within the party the last two times. I did not encounter any push-pulls the last two times. So this has definitely been harder, if you will, from that point of view. But with that said, As I said, the more pushback I'm getting, the more determined I am. So I haven't been that determined earlier either, right? So I'm trying to work harder. I am doing more now than I did the first 2 times. And as you can see, the results are already speaking for themselves. Irrespective of what happens on November 5th or after that, it may take a day or two to get the final results with, counting ballots and all that stuff. But irrespective of that, I am very proud of the work that has already occurred, which would not have happened if we didn't have someone on the ballot. And I think that's a message that I really want to send people out, that I want to send out to people who are in the leadership position, right? We make evidence-based decisions all the time. So the scientific side of me totally understands where they were coming from. They looked at the numbers, they looked at the data, they looked at the history, they looked at all of that and said, you don't really have a good chance of winning. So I understand that. Our district was redistricted. And there were leaders in both sides of the aisle who were responsible for redrawing the lines. Mm-hmm. And our district was purposely redistricted to be written off as a red district. And I understand that happens. I'm not totally on board with it, but I understand that happens. And that is what happened here. And I'm like, you know what? How is history made? History is not made when you keep following the old numbers in the old style. History is made when you challenge the old numbers. Old numbers are there to tell us how it's been and what the probability is moving forward. But you don't make history by doing the same thing over and over. You try something new, you try something different, you try a little harder, and you push against those boundaries.
No incumbent's ever been voted out by people staying home. That's for sure. What has your interactions been like with your opponent, if any?
My only interaction with my opponent face-to-face so far was on the day of the primary elections. If I recall correctly, he started the conversation trying to tell me something like, you need to know your district and your constituents, but he was interrupted by a person in his own party, the county controller. I believe she's the county controller. And she sort of called him out and called him rhino and all kinds of names. So I didn't have to really do anything. He left before he was humiliated anymore.
The push poll itself that was put up against you, I subscribe to the feeling, and look, there's people in our party that are guilty of this as well. That sometimes folks just wanted a little too much, like just too much, like there's too much at stake, and generally it's their own pockets.
See, there's nothing wrong with wanting something too much. The question is, what is it that they want? What I want too much is I don't want the fear of my son getting pulled over by the cops and getting shot just because of the color of his skin. What I want too much is I don't want to live with the fear that tomorrow, God forbid, my daughter has to make a decision around her pregnancy and her life is put at risk because of that. What I want too much is I don't want to live in the fear that if one of my children needs gender affirming care, I as a mother can't give it to them because it is against the law. That is what I want too much of. I want too much of having the right and the freedom to care for my children, for my neighbors, for my community. I want too much of that. There's nothing wrong with wanting too much of that. But wanting too much of just staying in power for the sake of power, wanting to be in power so you can finally start collecting your pension and finishing your multi-million-dollar mansion, that I have a problem with. When you're not doing much for the community that elected you into power to begin with. He is the only organization with whom he has 100% rating is the NRA. He has done practically nothing to decrease gun violence. Ghost guns were not a thing. 3D printing and all that is something that has come into the market recently. So we didn't have laws to regulate that. And that's become a huge problem. and people stereotyping that, gun violence is only happening in certain areas, in certain communities, in certain subpopulations. That is not true. We're seeing an increase in suicide by guns in the senior community in rural Pennsylvania, in the elderly white people. So trying to stereotype that it happens in inner cities, in ghettos, and in African American or Mexican or whatever backgrounds, that is not the truth. Derry Township has above average crime rate in Pennsylvania. I was surprised when I saw that data. I'm like, Derry?
In fact, I believe suicide by gun in the home is 80% more likely if there is a gun in the home.
Yep, you need a gun to have suicide
Which
by gun.
sounds almost stupid, and it sounds almost oxymoronic, but it's instead of someone becoming so desperate that they have decided to end their lives, that only 20% of the time will they go find a firearm with which to do that. But if the gun is already in the home, 8 out of 10 times they're more likely just to grab it and end their own life.
And you know what is more heartbreaking than that? Soon after I opened my business here in Hummelstown, just down the street from me, just a few doors down, there was about a 10-year-old kid who managed to get his hands on a gun. And he and his friends were playing Russian roulette. That kid didn't get a chance to make a second mistake. When I was a grad student at Penn State, we had a lab manager whose 14-year-old daughter, she had a breakup with her boyfriend. I believe she understood. She believed she was, she had body image issues. She took her dad's rifle. She never got a chance to lose that weight that she wanted to. To me, that is not acceptable. That is not acceptable.
I think we only have you to the top of the hour, if I'm correct.
That is correct.
So in the remaining 10 minutes, I'd like you to highlight, if you would be willing to do so relatively quickly. You've talked about women's autonomy. We've talked about gun violence and common sense weapons safety protections, which is what I try to refer to them as here. These are weapons. They can kill. They are instruments of death. They were designed for death. And, for all of the right-wingers who will say, well, cars kill people too. Well, they weren't designed for that. Yes, they do kill people. And then we put seatbelts in them, and we put airbags in them, and we put crash walls in them, and body crumple zones and things like that. All mandated by the government, by the way. That said, what are some of the other? If there's another 1, 2, or 3 really driving issues for you, what might those be?
I want to highlight also gender affirming care for LGBTQ community members. I understand that trans people, people whose bodies have been under the influence of testosterone, competing with females is an issue. We're getting more and more scientific information about that. And I think those decisions need to be made based on science and evidence. So I understand women in sports have struggled to get where we are. We're still far away from equality or even equity in pay. So I certainly understand that and do not wish to undermine the progress made by women in athletics, but at the same time denying children, especially children. I would do anything to have my kids go out and play sports rather than spend the day watching YouTube and watching TikTok, right? A lot of parents complain that their kids, but what do you do then? You don't want them to do this, you don't want them to do that, you don't want them to be I'm like, come on. We need to make opportunities for these children. So fighting for access to safe and legal abortions, decreasing gun violence, protecting the rights of our LGBTQ community members, better quality of education, banning books. Best way to make a child read a book is tell them they're not allowed to read a book, right?
Actually, yeah. Anything really, yeah.
Yeah, my dad didn't want us to read these adventure books, Hardy Boys and Nancy Drews. We used to hide them. I lived in an apartment complex, and as soon as we entered the building, there was that big box, the switchboard for the building. We used to hide our library books in the switchboard because my dad didn't want us bringing it upstairs to the home. I've read more Nancy Drews and Hardy Boys than I've read autobiographies of famous people. So best way to get kids to read books is to ban books. So improving the quality of our education, providing living wages. Anyone who works a full-time job should be able to pay for the roof over their head, a reasonable meal, and keep clothes on their body. That is really not asking for too much. Any full-time job should be able to provide for their basic needs. Affordable health care, closed pay gap. Women are still not getting equal pay. Address climate change. I think we touched upon that slightly. And then term limits. One of the many things that were told to me by someone who was trying to discourage me from running was, oh, I have 30 years experience. And I'm like, yeah, 30 years, politics 30 years ago is not the same as politics today. Like, have you been paying attention to the Me Too movement, to the Black Lives Matter movement? Do you know why women like me got involved? I knew nothing about politics in 2016, nothing. Never dreamt about getting involved in politics. But here I am. There's a reason. Because people who've been doing it for 30 years, they think they own the place. And they think they can keep doing things the way they were doing because she's been here, she ain't gone nowhere. That attitude. That we've been doing this, we can continue doing this, and things are going to be fine. No, they're not. So those are some of the key points I'm running for. Term limits. I think 30 years is way too much. I respect institutional knowledge, but we do need to come up with term limits. Even in the Army, you can serve for 20 years, you get to retire.
Yeah, law enforcement, 25 years. Yeah, same idea.
Yep. But something in that range would be fine. I'm not saying keep it down to 4 years or 6 years or something, but I think 30 years is a bit much.
It is true that the founders and framers never intended these positions to be full-time.
Exactly.
That's why generally, certainly at the founding of the nation, when the nation was 99+% still agrarian, that Congress met during the winter because the farmers didn't need to be home to tend the fields because it was winter. So these were never meant to be full-time positions. I certainly think, as the country grew, became more populous, as it became more of a player on the world stage, things became more complicated. And I don't have a problem with these offices being full-time, but Mitch McConnell's been in Congress for 60 years.
With that said, Pennsylvania legislature is one of the least functioning legislatures in the country.
Highest paid, largest, and least productive.
So it's not really a full-time job, or at least they're not working at it full-time.
Right. They're in session, 140 something days a year. I think it's not about half the month. I think most months. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. How do people find? We got 5 minutes before you have to leave us. So instead of trying to get into something complicated, let me just make sure that I turn the floor over to you I have done your previous 2 visits. How do people find you, follow you, donate, stay in contact, keep an eye on what you're doing, all of that stuff? And if there's anything else that we didn't get to talk about, or that you didn't get to talk about, or an answer that we didn't get to fully flush out, just the floor is yours until you have to sign off. Just please let everybody know how to find you, follow, email, website, all that good stuff.
Thank you. First of all, I'll start by saying I'm glad my name is correct. Did you see the little video about JC Vance where his name was not correct? It was flipped. It was a mirror image. Anyway, folks can find me. I'm on Facebook. Just look up Citizens for Dr. Anju Singh. I have Facebook. I have Instagram. I have a X account. I also have a website, Citizens for Dr. Anju Singh. I have an ActBlue account. I would really, really appreciate. Unfortunately, as we know, dollars don't vote, but dollars do help us get the information out and reach the voters. And I would plead every single voter, make an informed decision. As I have proved through my actions, I don't blindly toe the party line. I respect its experienced advice and recommendations, but I don't blindly toe the party line. I am here to serve the people because I am the people. I am the people. And the people need to take that power back and make decisions and vote for whom they choose.
So we have you said Facebook, Instagram. Is there a website?
Yep, citizensfordranjusingh.com. I can put the links in the chat.
And you decided to keep your X account.
I'm not very active on X.
Yeah, me too.
My Facebook, Instagram are probably my most active sites.
I already put it in the chat, so
Thank
Okay,
you.
George put all the links in the chat, but there is a we had that discussion one night here on the program. We just kind of set aside the whole program and had a discussion about, especially once it became very well known that Musk was putting in 50 plus million into the Trump campaign per month, and especially now is just openly out there campaigning for him and campaigning for the end of democracy and campaigning for fascism.
I don't understand folks like him. There was a time I thought he was intelligent, educated, and all that stuff, and now it's just I don't understand.
At the risk of trying to speak medically to the doctor,
Hey, I'm not licensed here, so you're good.
I would hazard in all seriousness that it is a psychopath. That this is a hoarding. This is a combination of a hoarding, narcissistic, and kind of self-supremacy list of psychopathies.
I'm glad you brought that up. I'm glad you brought that up because one of the things that has really been on my mind for a long time is prior to 2016, we didn't have such a bitter vitriol happening on all platforms. 2016, when Trump imitated that physically handicapped reporter, then to give him a taste of his own medicine, people started making memes about him and making jokes about him. Then his supporters make memes about the other party. And that kept going back and forth and back and forth and just grew and grew and grew till it has now become an everyday occurrence everywhere for everyone. And guess who's been watching and learning this for the last 8 years? Our children. Children who were 3 and 4 years old at the time. Today, they're all in middle school. And now we wonder why our middle school children are struggling so much with bullying and emotional issues.
Yeah, I would argue that some of it starts with Nixon, but I get your point. The social media era, we talked one night on one of our weeknight programs. Got very little response from it, unfortunately. It was sad. But I did postulate the question to the audience is, can democracy exist in this social media era? Can democracy itself even still exist?
Social media is a tool. I usually like to pull the analogy. Social media is like a kitchen knife. You can use it to cut your vegetables and make your meal, or you can use it to murder someone, or you can use it as self-defense. It's how you use it that matters. So it's not the social media's fault per se. For me, it's great. That's how I keep in touch with my family back home. That's how I keep in touch with my cousins all over the country, all over the planet. That's how I keep in touch with, that's my only social life. I don't have much of a social life. So I love social media. I think it's great, but it's a tool. It will do what you make it do. And we need to work on that. We really need to be better adults. And that's my whole thing. You'll see my flyer and we need to build a better community. We need more empathy and compassion. And we need to start looking at narcissistic psychopaths as patients of serious mental disorders that need support and help and treatment, not positions of power. They need to be treated like patients with some really advanced terminal disease.
Thank you again for making time for our humble little program.
A great program. I appreciate the work you do. Thank you for having me back.
And you are welcome here anytime. We'll be rooting for you and we'll be thinking about you. And when we're all watching results come in at the end of, after 8 o'clock on the 5th, we'll be looking for we'll be looking for your district number and looking for your name and seeing how you're doing. And you are welcome back here anytime.
Thank you so much. Thank you for all your work. Best wishes to you all. Take care. Bye-bye.
Have a good evening.
Good night. Bye-bye.
That's Dr. Andrew Singh. Third time back. Yeah, take that, folks. Third time back. I blanked out on the district number, George. I had it. It was in the chat somewhere. God, of course not. I can't find it. What the hell district is it? I lost it. I had it in here somewhere. I'm scrolling vigorously back through the chat because I knew I put it in there. 106. I wanted to say 106. I thought I was going to be wrong. Oh, yeah. Well, okay. Randall puts in an interesting quote or interesting thought in the comment section. Musk left South Africa when apartheid stopped. Think about it. Yeah, that's you know what? Yeah, he was young, but yeah, that's yeah. Anyway, 8:03 Eastern Time, entering the final fill in the blank of whatever I can sit here for of the program. My back is killing me. My right arm is on fire, and the very quick dinner that I was able to stuff in my face is absolutely everything from here down is on fire in a different way. This is just straight pain. My back is in such pain. If you see me wiggling around in a chair, I'm trying to find some way to ease the pain, and I can't. I can't lean back. I can't sit. I can't do anything. And I have such heartburn. I can't stand it. Don't get old, folks. Just don't get old. One of the great comforts of my life is that there are so many more days behind me than in front. I'm good. I'm tired and I'm ready. And when God comes for me, I will be ready. But boy, just the number of things that doesn't work in this body on a daily basis, it's exhausting. Really tiring. And today it's my back, right arm, shoulder, and I have very wicked heartburn from eating terribly acidic things like bread. Because God knows bread, that's usually what kills you, right? It is 8:04. We're entering the final time period. It might be the last hour. It might be the last half hour. It could be 45 minutes. I have no idea. Of the program, The Kennedy Effect, live with you for the 20th of October, 2024. Tuesday marks 2 weeks left, folks. We're coming down into the final 2 weeks until the end of this cycle. Please, please, please have a plan and vote, whether it is by mail, absentee, in person. If your particular county and state have early in-person voting, next weekend, all of next weekend, I think it starts Thursday, but I'm not 100% about that. It is early weekend voting in New Jersey, where you have literally all weekend to go to the polls and vote. Go vote. Whatever it is that you need to do, however it is that you need to do it, please, please vote. Whether you agree with me on how you should vote or not, please vote. It's your vote. It is your constitutional right, and it is a civic duty. Please vote. However you got to do it, just vote. We are live right now on the Facebook pages of Ghost Claw Productions, TCP Media Group, Our Revolution Pennsylvania, live on and hot101.net, live on my Facebook, Jeff Kennedy, live on our home group Facebook page for all things surround the program. That Other Side of Information. We are live on YouTube. That Other Side of Information. Live on Twitch, Jeff R. Kennedy, and live on LinkedIn at Jeff Kennedy as well. The audio of the program blasting around the globe, hot101.net. Our name is our web address. Main website, hot101.net. Apple App Store, Google Play Store for Android, and the TuneIn radio app. You can also tell Alexa to play hot101.net. And of course, GCPR Live, Ghost Claw Productions .live, GCPR.live. A special hello to our listeners and viewers from outside the United States. The Villain's View follows us from 9 p.m. on GCPR Live in most of these Facebook outlets. Conversations with T. Nathan from 11 p.m. Eastern Time. Thomas returns in the morning at 8 a.m. with the sound of coffee. We will be back with you from 8 p.m. tomorrow evening. The music resumes right after us here on Hot 101. Always a pleasure to have guests, period, but a pleasure to have one as intelligent and as genuine as Dr. Singh. I mean, she's She's got nothing to hide from you folks. She's tell you why she's running, what she cares about, tell you the truth behind it, and she just there's no mistaking what she stands for, what she believes in, and just you know, I hope you support her if you can. And I certainly know that on election night, I will be watching the results come in and trying to keep an eye on her race, see how she's doing. Let us return back to the Associated Press. Disturbing article, which was posted today. The author is Matt Brown. Thank you, Mr. Brown, for having a name I can pronounce. Very, very simple. Matt Brown. Headline: Trump boosts a hard-right Christian worldview that paints the election as, quote-unquote, spiritual warfare. Livonia, Michigan, standing before hundreds of people in a suburban Detroit chapel at an event organized by Donald Trump's campaign, Marlon J. Reed declared that God had called on them to vote for the former president. You're being called upon to stand up and face down this darkness and face down these lies and refuse to stop speaking, but to speak up and to stand up and to make it known that we are not going to take this, said Reed, the pastor of the New Wine Glory Ministries in Livonia, Michigan. That doesn't sound like a money-making operation. I'm not sure what does. Sounds like a winery. We are not going to lie down. We are not going to allow you to take our country and take our rights and our freedoms, even if it means war. We are not going to allow you to take it, Reed said to Cheers. White Christian evangelical nationalists, and some now in people of color, are excellent at, and I mean excellent at, the same type of diversion and deflection that the mainstream secular Republican former political party has always been so good at. When this pastor says we're not going to let you take our freedoms, it's the Christian evangelical nationalist movement that helped shut down abortion in this country. They are the ones pitting brown people against black people against Asians. They are the ones beating down the literal maximum 3% of the population that might be transgender. Take freedoms. What the frack are you talking about? What on earth are you talking about? The only group that I see actively campaigning to take freedoms is that very Christian nationalist movement. A movement that is telling the rest of us, you live the way we tell you to live. And if you don't, Trump's talked about concentration camps. We can just throw you in one of those. Yes, folks, it is that serious. And in what might sound like a bit of an oxymoronic statement, it's that simple. The very people who can't wait to take your freedoms from you are the ones bitching that they're having their freedoms taken. These are not serious people. They're dangerous. They're violent. They're looking for excuses to be violent. But they're not serious. They should not be taken as some sort of scholars or leaders. They are none of the above. They are simply dangerous. They are simply flat out 100% dangerous. And this evangelical, I almost hate to call it a movement. Most movements have altruistic, uh, societally beneficial aims and goals. These people are not part of a movement. They're dangerous. They're totalitarian. It is impure. It is anti-Christian. It's anti-American. And it's not hyperbole to say any of it. All you have to do is read it. Just read it. And I'll tell you what, there's a number of self-identified Trump loyalists who have nothing in common with the evangelicals. Nothing. Trump's been married 3 times, 5 kids with 3 different women, countless abortions reported throughout his rise to power in New York City. If you were living in the area, you knew it. Musk, 15 kids with 11 different women, divorced 3 times, I think. They have nothing in common. Twice. Thank you, George. They have nothing in common with each other other than the relentless pursuit of money and power. And there's nothing Christian about that. There's nothing American about it. And there's nothing small d democratic about it. Randall, go ahead.
Yeah, can you hear me?
You got it.
All right. You know, when I was in public education back in the 50s and 60s, because I graduated in June 70, you know, there was required reading in English classes or required reading in social study classes. You know, Brave New World, 1984. And they're both, you know, they're both dystopian novels. One's on the state controlling your behavior by pain, etc., 1984. And one on the other side is creating a dystopia through drugs, soma, to the population to keep them calm. But, you know, I got a first edition, 1984, of The Handmaid's Tale. And that, of all anti-societarial, anti-democracy, The Handmaid's Tale is the Bible of what this white nationalistic and evangelical movement wants to do in our country. You know, I'm not talking about the TV series. The TV series is good. I'm talking about the actual book. Because if you read the book at the beginning, the reason so many, you know, vast majority of women in America at that time, why were they infertile? Because we polluted our friggin' environment with toxic chemicals, etc. That's what made the women and the men infertile. And, you know, if you read the book, that first chapter it just, you know, it shows them taking political control of states, and it shows them taking political control of Washington, and it shows them electing their Christian nationalist, racist president. And that first chapter also tells you who's cleaning up those toxic waste fields. It's the brown and the blacks. It's the undesirables. So I'm scared. You know, I mean, Andrew and I voted yesterday, mail-in, but I'm scared of November 5th because God forbid if Trump and Vance get elected. I don't think Trump's going to last 4 years if he's elected. And Vance is even more of a dictator. I mean, how? He's at the forward project in the forward writing to Project 2025, right?
Yeah, we were going to talk about that. There's a new sort of theory, I guess. I guess theory is the right word for it. That Musk, especially, and Bezos and Peter Thiel and the Mercers and Jeffrey Yass, Pennsylvania's own personal 50-plus billionaire, they're supporting Trump because of Vance, and that they know Trump's not going to last a term anyway. He's 78. He's morbidly obese. He is. I can't imagine that the color that he's painted on a regular basis is natural. And I mean not a natural color, but made of natural ingredients. There's the amount of carcinogens that must be in there. Somebody played, I think it was Morning Joe, played the old tape of I just dated myself there, tape. The video of Ronnie Jackson during the first Trump term, so who's now a member of Congress from Texas, by the way, which tells you everything you need to know about Texas. That Trump just had absolutely superior genes, and that he wouldn't be surprised if he lived to be 200 because his genes are just so superior to all the rest of us. But you almost have to wonder if maybe he does have some sort of deal with the devil, or just some sort of what's the painting? Some Dorian Gray sort of painting in the attic, that you can be 300 plus pounds, dyed a very unnatural color, eat nothing but McDonald's 3 times a day, and yet somehow at 78 he's still here. I have no idea how that works. I'm 55 and I can barely get out of bed. So I don't know how that works, but that there is I started to see some writings about that this week from folks on the left and from media sources on the left and op-ed writers and so on, that Trump really isn't the target of this campaign. It's Vance, because they think Trump will either resign as soon as he can dismiss all the cases against him, get a bunch of cash stuck in his pocket, that he'll resign and turn the reins over to Vance, or that he'll just die in office, and then Vance will take over. And Vance, of course, has no real political center of his own. He doesn't appear to have any real, actual beliefs or
He's
policy.
only been served in government 18 months. 18 months is all the experience he has in government.
Well, Peter Thiel paid for him to go to an Ivy League school. I don't know what it is. I don't know what Peter Thiel saw in J.D. Vance when J.D. Vance was in his late teens and early 20s. We can only speculate about that. Wink, wink, wink. We can only speculate about what Mr. Thiel saw in Mr. Vance at that early of an age, that he's bankrolled him in ever since, sending him to an East Coast elitist Ivy League left-wing school, and setting him up with the hedge fund and everything else. But it appears, if you follow Vance through his history and his writings and his other, on-air musings when Trump was running in 2016, calling him a fascist and unfit and everything else, it seems that Mr. Vance has no real political center, political basis, political foundations whatsoever. It's just whoever's sticking the cash in his pocket at the time. So he's a perfect vessel for Project 2025, a perfect instrument for Project 2025, because he will do what he is told as long as the money is there behind it, period, end of story. Go ahead, sir.
Well, my thoughts are J.D. Vance is an absolute, he goes even beyond Trump to be an authoritarian. wanted to be dictator, but he takes his orders from the billionaires. And again, he wrote the foreword to the book put out by the Heritage Foundation, Project 2025. So he's in there as a dictator. No fans are much. Listen, Jeff, I got to do a treatment. My COPD is going crazy here. Okay.
You got the nebulizer?
Bye.
Yeah, you take care of yourself. Well, he never goes that quick, so that must be serious. Probably a nebulizer would be good. But I can't blame him because right now I would probably eat about a half a bowl of Thomas. I can assure you I've been pouring a very large glass of milk when I get downstairs. We'll probably mint ice cream on top of that, which tends to help settle my stomach in a lot of times. Because goodness knows that organic wheat bread, George, get this, because what else would cause massive, massive reflux and heartburn? Organic wheat bread, Swiss cheese, and Lebanon bologna. And if you know what Lebanon bologna is, it's kind of almost sweet. Because, Jesus, that's so acidic that, of course, everything. I'm not just drinking all this water because I'm thirsty. I'm trying to calm everything down and keep myself from hurling all over the place. Right here. And,
I have organic wheat bread every morning.
I mean, is it that acidic that I should be having acid reflux? For Christ's sake. I don't know what to do. What are you supposed to eat?
I
kills you.
I take I take a Protonic, which is it's 1 pill a day. It's pantoprazole, and it
that's another doctor.
It curbs it curbs my acid reflux. As long as I'm not doing like a lot of like if I eat a lot of acidic foods like like a lot of tomato sauce and stuff like that, and so I do drink a lot of water every day.
I'm gonna get milk when I get downstairs. I'm gonna get some ice cream when I get down there. Try and calm everything down. One thing that I did want to bring up, if I can find it. I know I posted it. I just have to find it. So a moment, if you would be so kind, folks. Not relevant. That I believe I posted it. There we go. Wow. Okay. This is from, now we talked about this last Thursday on our weeknight program. And I have been following the story since. This is from Friday, from about 9:30 in the morning. Well, that would be Greenwich Mean Time, so bollocks. What would that be? 3, 5, but roughly around 2:30 Eastern Time. I think Greenwich Mean is 5 hours behind or ahead of us. Regardless, it's from the AP, and it is written by Hyung Jin Kim and Kim Tong Hyung, who are South Korean writers for the Associated Press. And I bring this up because we were discussing this last week, and what a huge international incident this would be, an escalation that it is, if found out to be true. Well, here we go. Dateline is Seoul, South Korea. Put my news presenter's hat on because I've not been rating quite well tonight. South Korea's spy agency said Friday that North Korea has dispatched troops to support Russia's war against Ukraine. If confirmed, the move would bring a third country into the war and intensify a standoff between North Korea and the West. The South Korean announcement came a day after Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said his government has intelligence that 10,000 troops from North Korea are being prepared to join Russian forces fighting against his country. The National Intelligence Service said in a statement that Russian Navy ships transferred 1,500 North Korean special operations forces to the Russian port city of Vladivostok. I have said that 1,000 times in the past. I'm not sure why I tripped over it. From October 8th to October 13th, said more North Korean troops are expected to be sent to Russia soon. The North Korean soldiers deployed in Russia have been given Russian military uniforms, weapons, and forged identification documents, the NIS said. It said they are currently staying at military bases in Vladivostok and other Russian sites such as, I cannot pronounce those. And they will likely be deployed to battlegrounds after completing their adaptation training. The NIS posted on its website satellite and other photos showing what it calls Russian Navy ship movements nearing North Korean port and suspected North Korean mass gatherings in the location of the two bases. South Korean media, citing the NIS, reported that North Korea has decided to dispatch a total of 12,000 troops, formed into 4 brigades, to Russia. The NIS said it could not confirm the reports. The NIS has a mixed record of finding developments in North Korea, one of the world's most secretive countries. If confirmed, the move would be North Korea's first major participation in a foreign war period. North Korea has a standing 1.2 million troops, one of the largest standing militaries in the world, but it hasn't fought in large-scale conflicts following the 1950 to 1953 Korean War. We talked about this last week, that this would be a major escalation of activities if, in fact, this were found to be true. Well, now it would appear South Korean CIA, for lack of a better term, has confirmed that these troops, that 1,500 of these troops have already moved, and that 10,000 more will be on the way. Again, I'd like to try to put this into some kind of perspective. The Russians do not have an ancillary, an equal, a parallel to NATO. When the Soviet Union still existed, it had something called the Warsaw Pact, which was a military alliance signed at the point of a gun from the Soviets and the Eastern Bloc countries that they controlled, like Poland and Hungary, Romania, Czechoslovakia, the Eastern European countries that came under Soviet control following the end of World War II. So you had NATO in the West, you had the Warsaw Pact in the East. China was not part of the Warsaw Pact, by the way. The Warsaw Pact, of course, disintegrated when the Soviet Union disintegrated. So Russia currently does not have a similar alliance in place. It has a series of individual alliances. It has a one-on-one alliance with the North Koreans. It has an alliance with China. And I believe it has one with Iran. I could be wrong about that part, but I believe the two nations have signed some kind of alliance. So for North Korea to put troops on Russian soil in Russian uniform at the command and direction of Russian officers, it would be, let's just say the Poles. Polish decided to send Ukraine 100,000 soldiers. Say France decided to send 100,000 soldiers. It is very much the same thing. Now, the added complication, of course, being that Poland, France, the UK, these are NATO nations. But Russia and North Korea have a mutual defense pact. If one is attacked, the other responds. And I guess, in a strict manner of speaking, the Russians have been attacked because the Ukrainians have taken Russian territory. Because the Ukrainians and Zelensky from the beginning have said they need to feel this war. So I guess, in a manner of speaking, they have been attacked, but they weren't attacked first. And remember, late last week, Trump said in public, as part of his campaign, he blames Zelensky for Russia invading Ukraine. That somehow he's responsible. If anyone with even an active brain cell can tell me how that works, I got a shiny penny for you. This is a very serious escalation. If we were not in the middle of a presidential campaign, if this were October, if it was a year from now, it was October of 2025, or if it had been last year, if it was a year ending in an odd number, where elections are few and far between. The most significant elections, by the way, from a national standpoint, next year will be the governorships in New Jersey and Virginia. The governorships for New Jersey and Virginia are always up a year after the presidential. So Governor Phil Murphy in New Jersey is term limited. There will be a new governor in New Jersey. And the governor of Virginia is single term limited. They can only serve 4 years and they're out, which I think is odd. We could have discussions about term limits, but I think to term limit an office to one term is a bit drastic. But they must have had a Democratic governor somewhere along the way. They want to keep them. Randall mentions, although North Korea has 1.5 million armed forces, the article says it's 1.2, but okay, take it one way or the other. They have no merit. Yeah, we read that in the article. No actual military experience. They haven't fought anywhere. And it also might be part of why Kim Jong-un is sending them into battle, is to get some battle-tested troops. One of the reasons the U.S. got as deeply involved in Southeast Asia in the Vietnam era as we did is that the generals at the Pentagon, all the experienced World War II troops were gone, and Korean troops. They were gone. They had either aged out or left the service. There were the ones that had still been in, who had fought in the front lines, were higher-ranking officers now and not combat troops. And that the U.S. had no ready combat troops. And one way to get combat-ready troops is to throw them into combat. It was one of the reasons that the Pentagon wanted so badly to be part of the war in Southeast Asia. And, of course, what Eisenhower warned us about, the military-industrial complex. They made billions on the Vietnam War. Billions. President Eisenhower and President Kennedy very famously hated each other. They did not like each other at all. By all historical accounts, Kennedy had a tremendous amount of respect for what President Eisenhower did as Supreme Allied Commander of World War II, but didn't like him personally. Eisenhower looked at Kennedy as a young whippersnapper who didn't know anything about anything. He thought he was a young hotshot who just didn't have enough experience to accomplish anything. But the one time that they did talk, and they very famously talked very little during the presidential transition from the end of the Eisenhower terms to the beginning of the Kennedy term. But one thing that President Eisenhower did tell, and several historians have reported this, I'm certainly not breaking any news. One of the things that President Eisenhower told President Kennedy was, get out of Southeast Asia. The very first U.S. troops and or slash advisors, which is how they were labeled at the time, that these were American troops that were going to Vietnam to train the Vietnam armed forces to defend themselves using American weapons and American techniques. Some of those advisors got killed in combat. It was Eisenhower that sent the first quote-unquote advisors to Vietnam. He had increased that number steadily. We're still not talking about huge numbers. I believe by the time Eisenhower left office, it was about 1,500. I could have that wrong. I'm working from memory. But it was Eisenhower that did it first. And the entire time from when Eisenhower first agreed to send American trainers and advisors, the Pentagon consistently pushed him for more and more and more and more. And then they wanted combat troops and they wanted airstrikes. And Eisenhower consistently pushed back against that. One of the conversations that they did have one-on-one with each other was Eisenhower told Kennedy, get out of Vietnam. I was wrong. I never should have sent one single American there. Get them out. You have to get them out because the military wants this too bad. They want troops there. They want this war. And they want it for the wrong reasons, and they want it too badly. Remember, we talked to Dr. Singh about wanting something too badly. And what are you willing to do when you want something too badly? The military-industrial complex wanted war in Southeast Asia because they stood to make a mint off of it. And they did. Pentagon officials wanted battle-tested, battle-tried troops. We didn't have any. The guise of protecting Southeast Asia from communism was a very public excuse that could be easily used on the American people. But it's one of the only things that they really talked about. And of course, it's famously reported after that Kennedy actually called Eisenhower during the Cuban Missile Crisis. But North Korea it looks, according to the South Korean intelligence services, that North Korea is looking for the very same thing. They want battle-tested troops. They want troops who have faced a hot war, so that when those troops come back, they can train the rest of them, and they can get the rest of them ready. But what does Kim Jong-un want to get them ready for? Now, last week also, I believe it was Thursday, the North Koreans literally blew up. Not figuratively speaking. They didn't put roadblocks. They didn't pile sand and rock. They literally blew up, cratered, or sunk every bridge and road that connects the North to the South. The South Koreans at the DMZ thought they were under attack and began firing back. It doesn't appear that anyone was hit, wounded, or killed. And then over the loudspeakers from the north into the south was a recording of Kim Jong-un saying, "We're coming. We will attack soon." if this was 2023 or 2025, I think this would be a huge story. Like a massive story. But because we tend to look inside so much, and this presidential election is, by the way, for all the marbles, it's either the next election or the last one. We have literally a Democratic president, or we have dictatorship. We have a small d and capital D Democratic president who will stand for re-election in 2028, or we have a new theocracy, oligarchy, and fascist dictatorship of Trump and or Vance in perpetuity. Mr. Vance is only in his 40s, by the way. Musk and Thiel and Project 2025 comes to fruition. Vance could be there for 40 years until he then picks a successor. This is not dystopia. These are not fear tactics. This is not hyperbole. It is the plan on the right. George, you got anything you want to add before we get out of here? I'm going to wrap this puppy up. We'll give everybody a break, and then they can... The pre-show, by the way, the pre-show for the Villains View is probably already home. Would be my guess. I don't know if you know that for sure, but my guess is... Maybe not. I'm not sure. My guess is that they are on the pre-show. But did you have anything that you wanted to add?
No.
No.
Nope.
Yep, they are. Oh, no, they're not. Why are they not on? Have I been pumping a show all night that's not happening?
I don't know. They might be on. I mean, well, they're...
That's strange, isn't it? That's interesting.
Their pre-show usually is on Zoom, so they're probably on Zoom right now. But I don't think they're on. I don't think they're going live for a while.
Yeah, they're usually live by now, and then they hit the radio live.
That's true.
Anyway, the plan is, folks, Villains View follows us immediately. Well, I shouldn't say immediately. I thought the pre-show would have already been on Facebook and things like that. As soon as I see it, I will share it. The audio will begin from 9 p.m. Eastern time, so you got a little bit of a break. Go get a cup of tea, glass of milk, walk the dog, whatever it is you need to do. Villains View comes up from 9 p.m. Eastern time. All the times that I give you for all various things are Eastern time. Immediately following us, from the time I click off the button, immediately following us on hot101.net, the music returns. My suggestion to you is take a little bit of a musical interlude on Hot 101. Go back, check out Thomas at 9. Go back to the music if you're so inclined. There's nothing wrong with being on multiple radio stations at the same time. There's a lot of hours in a week. Of course, I want you to listen to all of the programming on GCPR, but we're not live 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Hot 101 is always on 24 hours a day. There's plenty of time to listen to both. I hope you will listen to both. I hope you will support both. Our plan is to return to you tomorrow evening. That was an interesting tone in my... Did you hear that? You didn't hear that.
What?
It just got like this weird... That. What is that?
I don't hear it.
Okay, good. Maybe it's just me. I'm getting like something's happening in the background here, which is not.
Thomas says that Villains View will be on tonight. Yes.
Okay.
At 9. So
maybe I'm getting texts.
Yeah, you're getting texts.
Something's coming in. I'm getting noises in my headset that are not supposed to be there. So that's interesting. But anyway, plenty of time to listen to both stations. We hope that you will. We think you can support both. It's perfectly fine. On our home group Facebook page, right up at the top is a section called Featured. These are featured, highlighted, permanent posts. Our GoFundMe is there. I have highlighted and tried to draw everyone's attention to it. Please check it out. If you can give, great. If you can't, I get it. These are expensive times. We've talked an awful lot about corporations stealing money from you and extracting wealth from you. It's hard sometimes to pay the bills and make ends meet. I'm asking you to please check out the GoFundMe. If you can support it, please donate. In short, George and I have done a GoFundMe for new equipment here in the studio. That's it. I'm not looking to put in a pool. I'm not buying a new car. I'm not taking a vacation to the tropics. I'm not raising money for the wedding. It's not even for medical bills or any of that stuff. It is simply for equipment for the radio program. That's it, period. Whatever we don't use, well, we'll use every dime on the radio program. I will use it for nothing else. You have my absolute word. Please just check out the GoFundMe. If you are able to give and you wish to do so, then please do. We thank you in advance. If you can't give this week or this month, maybe you can next month. It's going to be there for a while. So please check it out. GoFundMe.com/ what? Kennedy Effect, or how would you find it? Well, you know what? Just go to the link at the Facebook page. That's the
Yeah. Well, actually, just go. Go to GoFundMe.com.
/
Go to the search bar. No, sorry. You go to the search bar and just type in Jeff space Kennedy.
Yep.
And
so
you'll see our show moniker right there.
Just read it. George wrote up a nice, short little explanation of what it is that we are trying to do. Very simply worded, very simple explanations. We need new computers and we need a new audio board. And it ain't cheap. And if you can be a part of it, then please, we ask you to please do so. If you can't, I perfectly understand. So please just check it out and read it. Somebody said it was Big Brother pinging in my ear. That's hilarious. That might be Randall that said that. I'm not sure. It very well might be. It's the detention camps, Randall. They're coming. It's the detention camps.
Political re-education camp.
Yeah. Right. But anyway, I think that about does it for us. It's about everything that we've been done about all the damage that we can do for one night. My deep, deep thanks to Dr. Andrew Singh for joining us yet again. A reminder to everybody who is still listening out there, and if you should happen to watch this on the recording, and again, YouTube is the best place to do that. Please know that if you are a candidate, or you know a candidate, or you're working for a candidate, or whatever it might be, for state or federal office ending in this election cycle in 2 weeks, please, 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 you're welcome here on the program. Republican or Democratic, you are welcome here. And yes, I know we had a discussion, last week about third parties as well and all. Yeah. If this was any normal time, if this was any sort of normal time, I'd welcome everyone. This isn't the time to screw around. So we need, if you have candidates that you're aware of that wish to be on the program and tell us about why they're running, what they stand for, all of that stuff, you are welcome here before the end of the cycle, obviously before the end of the cycle. kind of a dumb thing to say now that I think about it. But you're welcome here, and from both parties. No exaggeration. I mean it, from both parties. If you're coming in as a Republican candidate, you are welcome here. Republicans are always, always, always welcome here. Always. You can believe I will ask you some very tough questions, and we won't agree on much. But you will be treated with respect and kindness, and no name calling, no screaming, none of that stuff. Tough questions, you better believe it. Are you going to lie here? No. Will I allow that? Absolutely not. Will I use facts and science and history and data back at you? You better believe it. It's what we do. But I will not, there simply will not be name calling and screaming and all that stuff. We want you to come here. We want you to be able to talk to our audience, which is also your audience. So that's the plan. Thomas is live right now. The pre-show begins. Audio begins on GCPR in just about 7 minutes. The music resumes here at Hot 101, and a special hello and thank you to our Hot101.net family. Our show on Sundays has been very hit and miss in the last month and a half or so, most of which related to health. And our Hot101.net family has been nothing but kind and patient and just said, when you're good, you come home. And we have, and we're thrilled to be here, and we will continue to be here as long as they'll have us on Sundays. We return tomorrow night, in just about 23 hours from now. That's hard to believe when you think of it that way. Come to think of it. I'm going to try to sleep. I'm going to work for 10 hours tomorrow and then come home. And then when you think about 23 hours, it doesn't sound like that many. I guess it's less than a day, so really it is. We will be back with you from 8 p.m. tomorrow. Here's the rest of the schedule yet again. The Villain's View live from 9 p.m. on GCPR.live. The music resumes at Hot101.net. Back on GCPR, Conversations with T. Nathan from 11. Thomas returns tomorrow morning with The Sound of Coffee. We return from 8 p.m. tomorrow night. That's all on GCPR. Hot101.net. It's music, 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 music. You need a musical break? They are there, and they are ready and waiting for you to join in. Hot101.net. For everybody at GCPR, that's Thomas and Guild and everyone, for everybody that surrounds the Kennedy Effect, George and Lynn and Kristen and Daisy the dog and April Riddick, for everyone at Hot101.net, the big boss, DJ Lex and DJ Earl, and all of the extremely talented DJs and family that we have at Hot101.net. I am Jeff Kennedy. Done about all the damage we can do for one night. The Villain's View follows us right now. The music returns to Hot 101, and we will see you tomorrow evening from 8 p.m. Until then, please take care of yourselves and each other and make a plan to vote. See you tomorrow night.